perhaps we could start with you. How's the Squamish Nation and all of your sovereignty stuff going along? Please update us.
All right. The really good news that we have is that the Southern Squamish government just received a letter from the United Nations, and they say, "Ooh la la, we cannot work with you." And we realize that the United Nations is part of the Rothschild banking system, and they're the pirates at the sea. So of course they can't work with the sovereign because the sovereign lives on land. The nice part about our movement is that we have appointed an Apache who is our banker. He's agreed to become our banker. We provided him with a notice of appointment. We've also got our own sovereign Squamish government currency, which is tax-free, interest-free. We have notified and noticed all of the banking systems on the pirate ships abroad that we are here, and we're prepared to help anybody get out of this financial chaos and mess that they are in. Another really good piece of news that we got is that the government of Canada provided in writing to us that they are not prepared to settle any debts, and that they will continue to tax Mother Earth and humanity as they deem fit. And the arrogance in the judicial system of Canada goes all the way up to the top, as you very well know, Santos, with your recent interview and Jordan Maxwell's conversation. The Vatican claims to have ownership over all the family names through the bond of the people, and as soon as people start cutting up their government ID and start exercising their sovereignty and not paying into the tax system, we will have more peace on earth. Now, the nice part about our job is that we are working very due diligently with our banker, who is a hereditary, and he is working with sovereign banks that have the financial technology in place. I must warn your listeners that just recently, when you work at this level, they will attack you, and they attacked our website. Our website is seriously compromised, and we're now working with other people to try and get this moved to our own server so that it cannot be attacked again. But yeah, it's really exciting times. And we're really looking forward to getting our building up. We have, here on Squamish, we have the ability now to put people on tax-free payroll. We have we're now looking at, with our banker, who is the CEO for our central bank and our retail subsidiary, we're looking at sovereign leaders who are prepared to use tax-free and interest-free currencies. We will recognize all world currencies on the condition that they do not tax the transactions. And having said that, I want to pass the eagle feather on very quickly over to CM Kiaplano, because he had some added comments that he wanted to make to this interview.
Oh, please.
Okay, I just wanted to let you know where we stand west of the Rockies in what you call Canada. It's all unsold, unceded. My family, who has been the head of Squamish for 4 generations, was come to about 1,000 years or more, according to my grandfather, who died in 1959 at close to 200 years old. But anyway, the point is, we all feel the same way here, that there's enough here for all the people that live on Mother Earth, and the people that are living on Squamish now, regardless of whether race, creed, color, or anything, are all welcome here, and we will all be one. We're all from Mother Earth anyway, and we are the original owners of this land, and they own nothing with their justice system. It's all our land, and that's the way we feel. We want to welcome everybody and clean up this bloody mess that they made. They're cutting all the trees down here, and it's speeding up. They're working faster than ever since our legal brain, Irene, got working with all of our hereditary here. And I have to let you know right now that we have a good portion of BC that is standing with us. And if we start with BC and the way it is here, spread around the world, and I'm pretty sure it's like that in Australia. Is it, Santos?
Oh yeah. It's exactly the same here. We see the multinationals fracking and destroying forests down in Tasmania. There are people who are trying to stop the deforesting there. We've got forests that are thousands of years old, and they just go in and shred it to pieces because there's this economy that needs to be fed. This beast that needs trees and it needs Mother Earth to be trashed and raped.
Right. We've been out speaking here with the groups, and we found that all the people that are standing with us, they want to change, and they want to do it our way, the way that we did it for centuries here in this land.
Yeah.
And bring it back to the way it used to be. Even when I was a young lad, it used to be a paradise here. Now it's nothing but a bloody sewer. So
yeah, it's a wasteland.
That's right. So here's Irene again. I think that's about all you want to know about me.
Lovely.
Okay, Santos, I'm back. I just wanted to also inform you that we've had some very successful meetings with notaries who are standing by to help us regain title of the buildings that stand on the sovereign claim hereditary lands. One of the nice things about Cap and Red Jacket, who I would like to introduce you to as well, he's actually Turtle Island. And when we talk about Turtle Island and we talk about Earth, it's quite a big concept to engage in when we think of our consciousness. But the hereditary wisdom of the peace leaders and the stewards, the true stewards, who don't really, money is not part of their agenda. Money, it was something that was created by the global elite to enslave the human race. Now, one of the things that we are prepared to do, and we have the ability to do, is that we secured the debts to the contracts. We are the true secured holders to the title of the contracts. Now, the named debtors to the contracts will not be able to qualify for a credit account of $3 million per being, or human being, with the Severance Squamish Credit Group, which is our retail subsidiary. However, when you issue a contract out in that particular instance, you must also provide a remedy for the debtor. And it's quite simple. You just must meet face to face in a deposition and answer some very crucial questions that we have about the business activity that the BC de facto corporate government public agents are conducting on sovereign lands. The nice part about it is I have a registered lien against Enbridge. I'm making it public through your radio show. We also have a registered lien against Monsanto, and we also have a registered lien against Goldcorp, which is one of the Canadian mining companies that has gone down in South America and has done some horrific things through mercury poisoning and mining techniques down in the Brazilian area and in Mexico. Because the hereditaries come to us, to our court system, to ask us for help in how to render the debt and secure the debt so that they become the creditor and that they can use that particular lien as a deposit instrument with our Sovereign Squamish Credit Group. Having said that, we are, Cap and I and Red Jacket, have enough funding in our bank to give everybody a $3 million credit currency account. And that particular credit account, we would like to say, or suggest, that Red Jacket is always saying, we've got 5 years of a bridge to move over out of the money system into a totally, system like the way that Star Trek did it with Jean-Luc Picard in a recent clipping that I saw, where an alien came up to him and said, hey, what happened, Picard, when there was money on Earth? And Jean-Luc looked at him and said, well, we used to have this thing called money, but it caused too many wars and it caused too much suffering, so we removed it from our system. We now know. Yeah, isn't that cool, son?
Yeah. Beautiful.
And that 5 year gap to use a $3 million credit, would a sane person be able to use it to buy themselves a little home, become off the grid, gather your own solar paneling or your own independent source energy to keep yourself comfortable, and then pass it along through the notary system, because we're not dealing with lawyers anymore. We want nothing to do with lawyers anymore. Unfortunately, as much as we know that there are good lawyers and there are bad lawyers, but the notaries, as far as we're concerned, are the ones that we would prefer to work with. I think that the lawyers who would like to who are prepared to disbar themselves and step off the ship and use their notarial seal, the Southern Squamish government, we have lots of positions available for them. But yeah, I'm excited. I am just absolutely thrilled at the progress that we are making with all of this stuff. We're looking at housing for our government employees, which means free housing. We're not interested in asking people for rent. What gives with that? And the hereditaries that Cap and Red Jacket are working with up north are standing quietly beside them, and they're holding the eagle feather, and we're now moving forward to meet with the hereditaries and the Mayans down in Central and South America in order to exchange the condor feather with the eagle feather as a symbolic system of peace for Mother Earth and humanity.
Wow. Wow, this is pretty powerful stuff, Irene, that you're involved in, isn't it? This is pretty powerful, world-changing stuff.
Yeah, Santos, we've been at this for about 5 years, and I've kept telling, people would jump on board and say, yay, I'm excited, let's do it. What do we need to do? And one of the things that we needed to do was to ensure that everybody was properly notified. And the Kabbalistic system is very well aware of what the Southern Squamish government has done because of the recent response that we got from the United Nations and the recent response that we got from the Department of Justice Taxation Directorate. But having said that, not only do the Kabbalistic system and its members know that they are going down for fraud and treason and trespass and theft and genocide and all those other types of laws that they have created, we now are holding them accountable to it through the Southern Squamish Court. And that, for us, is probably one of the best things that has ever happened, is that there is an actual court that believes in true justice, and we have used that to the highest level. And the International Court of Justice has given us a docket number where we can actually file all our paperwork. And we're not reporting, because we don't need to report to Daddy and give him a cookie or information that we think he should know. We just basically serve them with a legal notice and say, this is it. This is where we stand. We're going to set up a new financial system with our own currency that has never touched a war. It has never killed a human being. It has never destroyed Mother Earth. And it has never harmed property. And that's what people are looking for, is they are looking for solutions. And so with the technology, which is something, I'm going to say to your listeners that if anybody has the drive to actually be a part of our communication system, I want a new type of Skype. I want a new type of internet system. We're looking at a whole new system that doesn't allow porn flicks or people to sell sex slave children on the internet. We want a whole new internet system that has integrity. And that type of integrity comes with the truth. We are right now working with an ex-RCMP officer who is fed up with the pedophilia system, which is what the de facto corporate government of Canada is all about. Canada is a pedophilia system, and people don't know that when they immigrate to Canada. They have no idea what that is. And so when they come here and they immigrate through the issuance of a passport, through the issuance of a driver's license, it's all connected to the tax system. And that tax system allows the government of Canada to go into your house and steal your children and feed their pedophilia appetites. And I mince no words with this because it's all true. And there's many witnesses that can come forward on that. But thank you for having us on your show, Santos. You're awesome. You're just love you.
Yeah, likewise, and thank you very much. It's so true. These corporations, there's very creepy people that hide behind them for things like pedophilia, and it's been exposed. Same in this country. There's a lot of that going on, and their time is up. Our time has arrived. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. Let's go to a break and continue on the other side with Irene and perhaps give Mark a bit of a go. Hang in there, Mark, and we'll hear from you soon. Thanks, guys. And we've got Mark Hollywood also to talk. Mark, you there?
I am, brother.
Yeah. Can you share with us your latest? I see you've put some new videos up on your site, which are invaluable information. Some of the best on sovereignty kicking around. Can you update us on your happenings, please?
Yeah, not much, Santos. Just actually been chilling and trying to take it easy, and that's probably about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I see you've uploaded a couple of handy little videos. What are they about?
The charter videos are just telling people that basically if they're citizens, they have no rights, and that I wish they would stop going into court claiming that they have rights when they're slaves on a ship. Those charters only apply to we the people who are not actual slaves/citizens, for them not to step on our toes. And that's what it's all about. So I'm kind of getting really tired of all this constitutional, well, we have the Constitution, support it. Look at the word, do I want to support that? No. So they can take their Bill of Independence, and they can take their bills of charters and all that stuff, and well, as far as I'm concerned, they can stick them where the sun don't shine.
Yeah, that'd be handy.
Yeah. And Santos, I think Cap or Red would like to have a word, so maybe I should just let them go first, if that's
Yep,
cool.
let's. That'll be fantastic.
Oh, okay.
All right, you guys, we're back, and Santos, again, it's a real pleasure to hear your voice, and Mark, you're always one of our heroes, for sure, big time. I'd like to introduce Red Jacket. He's original from Mohawk Seneca. If you're not familiar with the traditional territories of the land claims, that's New York City. You're talking about New York City, where they went and they did some pretty interesting things. I'll let Red Jacket give you a little accounting of what happened there. So here's my pleasure, deep pleasure, to introduce our dear friend Red Jacket.
Yes, I'm Red Jacket, Santos, and I'll give you a little breakdown, but I'm now into different fields of research. I'd like to tell you about from the Plymouth Rock, when they first set foot on this land. My people were there, and we helped them through the winters, and I showed them how to live in this land. And that was Red Jacket, my grandfather. And we did most of the treaties with the presidents of the United States. And from that point on, the country went downhill by them cutting 65 to 70% of all of the timber and all the natural resources that we made them so wealthy on without them paying for the land. They were where the intruders, and they still are to this day. They're unwelcome guests here. So what happens now is we want large portions of this land back, and Manhattan still owned by the Iroquois. They took that by deceit, by telling us they were going to give us so much for putting strings of beads and 28 red blankets. And we just rolled on the ground laughing at them, our ancestors. And but they left the blankets there and said, that's payment. Well, we didn't take the blankets. We didn't accept that. We never heard of it. The only thing we recognized, the Creator helped us out and put us here, and it wasn't for sale. Besides, we didn't even know what the money was. The red blankets are one source of wealth, I guess, and 14 strings of beads. But we outgrown this, so we know now what they were up for. We didn't accept it. But that's now we're trying to get the land back. And the White Plains here, that land, and we own large parts of Canada. I come from the Confederate as United Nations. Before United Nations was the United Nations, we had the first United Corporation, and that's where that come from. And also my grandfather's Donald, his name was, He dropped the first treaty on Earth that was ever told verbally before the white man got there. We told the first one, and they studied it, and they come to the conclusion that we're the oldest practice in democracy on the face of the earth, not just in Ontario or on New York or things like this. Now, for us to go forward in this world, we have to unite. And I say unite. The peace treaty and allied treaty. We can't go on the neighborhood to gather our people together. Native people all over the world be one body, one mind, one voice. That's the only way the world will listen to us. If we try any other way, it goes on deaf ears. So to gain this here power of the people throughout the world, we want to send up treaties, wake them up to be united, and to united we stand. I talked to the South American natives. I got 1,100 hereditary chiefs support me.
Santos?
Yeah, hello. Someone
Yeah.
went off there.
I was going to say, it looks like we just lost Irene, so we'll probably have to wait for Red to come back in a second.
Okay, look, were you struggling to hear that toward the end? I think that went. I don't know what the listeners are getting, but I'm getting a very chopped up conversation here. So that's unfortunate because Red Jacket really has some very powerful things to share, and you can just hear the pain of in the voice of the suffering of his people and all Indigenous people around the world.
Yep.
Because of it's it's rather a sickly sort of a condition that we've inherited in this world with corporate rule and the trashing of this earth and everything like that. If you were an alien coming along in some sort of a UFO and you're just sort of cruising around in the atmosphere looking at the behaviour on this planet, you'd be absolutely shocked to see the way this planet, such a beautiful, verdant, lush, life-filled planet, is being so trashed by thoughtless entities, corporations, trashing it, raping it, stealing all of its wealth. What for? Well, I guess it looks good on the stock market, doesn't it? When things are, they like to use the word progress and expansion and growth. Economic growth is one of these buzzwords. People love it. They think, oh, wow, that's healthy. That's why we're here. We're here for economic growth. Everything's about economic growth. Without it, they can't breathe. It's like they've got nothing else to do but just to watch economic growth happening as though it was a god. Yeah. So it's sad, and Indigenous people, and not just Indigenous, but we're all Indigenous. We all come from this planet, and we all want freedom and joy and bliss and happiness. So let's hope that that's around the corner. Freedom from this corrupt system. The system is,
Well, absolutely, Santos. That's why, like, I did those videos on the charter and stuff like that. It's just preposterous. Like, I'm so tired of people running around, oh, freedom. Look at the word dumb. You want to be dumb, it's like Constitution. It's not your Constitution. It's their Constitution that tells them not to step on the people's toes. And by people, I mean we, the people, not citizens, not the slaves. And it's just time for people to wake up. It's and did you find those videos helpful, Santos?
Oh yeah, all your stuff, my friend. I've made entire presentations based on your findings, my friend.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, I've learned so much from you and Kate. Of course, we both are very good friends of Kate of Gaia, who's been on this show. Next week, I'm having Boris from Peaceful Inhabitants And, of course, a couple of weeks ago, so you might want to tune in. That's my last show, and you might want to tune into that one. Boris has got a lot of wisdom, There's another guy who I'd like to plug who has much, much wisdom, and that's Ben Lowry. Have you heard of Ben Lowry?
Yes, I have.
No.
Irene, you're back. Hello,
Yeah,
Irene.
I haven't heard of. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can. Yes, and I would like. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. We haven't heard of Ben Lowry. I'm definitely going to try and tune in on that show for sure when you have him on as a guest.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to be having Ben, but I'm going to be having Boris, and very, very wise man with some great solutions and great remedies. But for all the listeners, Ben Lowry, get onto his stuff. This is a young man who has wisdom beyond his years. So there's a plug for Ben and all the great work he's doing. There's a lot of trouble down in the UK at the moment. Guys like Guy Taylor and Roger Hayes have been arrested. These are guys who are, prominent there with the sovereignty movement, and quite a few of them are getting arrested. And so we need to be aware of that. There's a lot of crime happening, of course, in the UK because they want everything to be nice and smooth for the Olympic Games, another corporate monstrosity. But anyway, I digress. Irene, we had Red Jacket. Please, can we have him back on, because it was just getting interesting when he fell off the Skype. So please, can we continue from there?
Sure. I just before I bring Red back on, I just want to confirm with you guys that we went into court in the Nelson area, which is in the interior of BC, and I was acting as an amicus curiae for the Southern Squamish government, and our member, Dr. Warren Fisher, who was attacked by the tax department very, very severely because he is practicing Chinese herbal medicine, and he also has a school, so he's teaching as well as being a natural practitioner of Chinese herbal medicines. The tax department uses that as a disguise here in Canada to do away with natural healing systems so that they can enforce the vaccines, of course, upon you so that you become the mindless drone through an MK Ultra serum, right? In any event, we went into court, and the reason why we went into court wasn't to do a show, but it was twofold. One, to establish a sovereign jurisdiction of a de jure government of hereditary leaders. And then secondly, it was basically to demand payment from the registered liens of the contracts that we had with the Canadian and the British Columbia government. The de facto corporate government system and the public agents refused to pay contracts. In other words, it's okay for them to go into your house and at gunpoint put you into jail for not paying taxes, but they have a really hard time when they have to turn around and really pay for their bills. What I did at the last meeting with the judge was I dismissed the case, and we are now in the process of suing both the Nelson Star, which is a Rupert Murdoch faction, to deliberately put in the lies in the newspapers of what went on in court, as well as sue the judge. And we are going to also...
Great news, Irene. Yeah, that's the music for the break. We're going to go to the last break, and then we have the final segment toward the end of the hour. So hang in there, listeners, and thank you very much. Thanks, Irene, and just hold the thought, and we'll continue after the break. Welcome back to American Freedom Radio. This is the final segment for the day, and we're on fire with some great sovereigns from Canada, and with some exciting news. Absolutely exciting to hear the progress being made in furthering the cause of freedom, true freedom and sovereignty, and the way to be standing in your own divinity. This is what the Indigenous people were all about in the first place. They always have been. And this is what we need to really get back to find our divinity, folks. And we have people like Irene and Mark and Red Jacket, of course, is coming back on to speak, who are trying to help us to see this and to be able to live in a better world. Irene, please continue with your thoughts from before the break. Thank you.
Oh, okay, Santos. Thank you for having us again. And just to finish off, I dismissed the case in Nelson Court, and now I just have to finish off the paperwork. But what I would like to do is, before I hand you back over to Red Jacket, is to say that we definitely, Santos, want to put you on one of our account holding systems here with our Southern Squamish Credit Group as soon as we're set up, and all you have to do is let us know what type of a trust account you would like to have us put the funds in. So anyway, without further ado, I would like to definitely have Red Jacket back online, and we would like to make one correction. We do not believe in color, and so when Red talks about the Europeans that came here to these lands, we're talking about the explorers, and they don't have a color to their race. So here's Red Jacket, and thank you so much.
Yes,
Lovely.
This here, and I'm sorry that I got cut off or whatever happened. But anyway, I'd like to finish some of the technology I got. I discovered robotic technology and a substance that'll last for years and years to come, and also supply all the food in abundance. And I got the system that'll preserve the foods in on the earth, and how I did it. I'll pull that for right now. It's too much to go into. But the electricity is there on DC current is compatible to your brain where you won't get sick. And I'm a medicine man. I discovered on a color code. It's not in English and not in any language. It's in a color code all over the world. So you tell me the color, you show me the color any place on a planet, I'll tell you what that medicine is for. But this is common knowledge. And that's how we learned these here, my ancestors. And so the food and everything else is all taken care of, and we just have to get back into where Irene is at on the banking system for momentarily. But I was the one that broke the Mayan calendar down all over the world a year ago, and I'm on other substances working on systems all over the world again, and I hope to have new breakthroughs. I discovered this here in 1953, and with this here technology, I got about 1,600 homes in one day together around the world. It don't matter where it is. I got other countries close to where you're at inviting me over to put some project together, but I don't want to say the name of the places right offhand. But anyway, that's what I have going for us as people. Don't deteriorate anything, and we have to stop cutting the trees down to keep the oxygen in the atmosphere, so it'll destroy the meteors that's bombarding Earth every so often, quite frequently to be exact. And with no oxygen in the atmosphere, we'll be bombarded in the future. And the change of the temperature of all the stars that's in the universe, the constellations, it tells a prophecy as far out as Plato's and many other constellations. I can read the Bible from here, from the star formation, the same as the Mayan did. And I broke all their codes down, the Nazca lines and all this here, and tell the people how this is being put together and prove it. So that's what I do. And I think we got to get on track here. And I want to go ahead and build the peace treaties in the treaties of allied treaties to bring us all closer to one. We can't go on as a neighborhood get together. We got to have the whole planet, or it's worthless. So we got to move ahead forward and fast. And this is going to take, I would say, within 6-7 months. This year will come about. These great catastrophes on Earth is going to show up on our doorstep. We don't know where it is. Everybody thinks it's comfortable the way it is right now, but it isn't going to be that way for too long. So we might as well enjoy it and put our minds together so we all work together as one people, one mind, one voice. Thank you.
Beautiful.
So that was Rick, and he is on our team. He's a team player, and again, Santos, like I said before, we are very supportive of you and your cause, and we are so looking forward to providing you with the necessary tools that you need in order to keep on moving on ahead with what you're doing, because you're doing a fab.
Thanks, sister. Thank you so kindly.
Yeah, and it's love that makes the world go round. So the sooner we raise our vibrational frequencies and say to these brothers and sisters who really have no idea, or really just are saying and telling us that they're doing their job, they're waking up. They're waking up slowly because they're still living in the box, and it's okay. We're the way showers, the healers, the truth speakers, and we are the sovereign people who have a right to know that through education alone can we empower ourselves. That's what the nice thing is about the sovereign Squamish government, is that we do not govern you. No. We have absolutely no way or interest in governing anybody. All we will do is use the educational tools to help you govern yourself, because helping you govern yourself means that you take control over your destiny, and your destiny may be a passion of helping other people or helping yourself to a point where you can be passionate about playing a flute or a guitar or dancing or playing or fixing a computer. There's so many beautiful talents that the human race has, and we are so innovative and we are so beautiful that we can't discount anybody. These souls that are lost at sea with their economic collapse, they're finding now that a lot of people are not interested in doing business with them anymore. And, the dominoes are falling, and they're falling hard, because deception and lies and fraud and treason and genocide is no longer an accepted lifestyle for the human race. The human family, like Jordan Maxwell so eloquently says, is a beautiful human family. And I think that together we can work to make this all happen. And the technology through the internet has been our best educational source. And again, Santos, I can't thank you enough. And Mark, you're such a trooper working with us through the educational platform and linguistics of the English language and helping people understand what TurnSpeak is as a technology that they've been using against us. The additional language and the sound of the drum and the exchange of the eagle feathers with the condor will come. And it is here. It is here, because the Apache and the Hawaiians and the Mayans and the Hopi and the Navajo and the Sioux and the Squamish and the Carrier and the Haisla and the originals of all the lands are still in open heart with peace. They are not interested in wars. And that's what I believe, and I have faith in, is the human race collective, conscious collective, is all about. I think that the general human consensus is a beautiful living spirit. And look at the different types of nationalities, the different types of foods, the different languages, the different dance, just the difference. Can you imagine if we were all the same and we wore the same clothes? I can't. I love the color of the human race, and that's, humbles me.
Beautiful. Well said. Irene, I've been asked to ask you about more bank details. How do people apply? Where is the currency accepted? There you go. There's the questions I've been asked for you, please. Thanks, listeners. Stay tuned next week. And thanks, Irene, and all of you for the wonderful show.
Hi everyone, I'm known by name as Irene Moss Gravenhorst, and I am a force of change to create abundance with truth for freedom on Earth. The purpose of this video is to respond to some comments on my film called Choosing Freedom, distributed on YouTube and Google. It is important for you to understand who I am, and those who discredit me, I place you on notice that as you judge me, you judge yourself, pursuant to the universal laws of reflection as researched by Greg Braden. It's the oldest trick to judge without knowing the history or doing some research. It is also how government hires agents to discredit the truth sayers. I teach common law jurisdiction versus Admiralty maritime jurisdiction to help you understand the importance of your name and to promote my workshops based on 19 years of legal research as a legal assistant, legal secretary, self-litigant, and educator. All this came about by changing my lifestyle and leaving a 17-year common law abusive alcoholic relationship. Everyone thought I was nuts to leave because he was very rich. I went from riches to rags on a mission to secure freedom for humanity and peace for Earth by testing the old system. As a teacher and student, I have no regrets because I did it my way. First, let me provide you with a short bio on how I understand this. In 1955, when I was born, there was a birth certificate issued to my capitalized name. The certificate was not signed by my parents, therefore it has no force or effect. This is important to know because my mom was a vessel and ship who birthed her child at the dock's hands. The dock capitalized on the family name without disclosure to my parents and produced me, cargo, chatteled by registration of a birth certificate. In 1959, when I moved to Holland from Indonesia, my name appeared on my mother's Dutch passport. The pirates at sea, private bankers, lay claim to your name by capitalizing on it behind your back with the security of an insured number, the social insurance number. I call it the slave identification number. Ladies and gentlemen, it should come as no surprise to you that slavery exists in Canada. Established in 1867 by private bankers and a tax collector known by the title to her name as Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Canada, I teach you how to reclaim your name in any style of cause with matters of commerce pursuant to contract and equity law by Gestapo. Understand the importance of jurisdiction and words. Watch The Occult World of Commerce by Jordan Maxwell and Jason Whitney. Do the research. My mission began in 1997 when I left my common law spouse and entered a 5-year legal battle. Disillusioned and disappointed by a court settlement, I knew that there was something wrong with the Just Us system and began my journey to freedom. Right after the settlement was filed in the year 2001, my accountant, who was a tax informant, reported my court settlement to CCRA, which is a corporate entity serving the Queen of England. But because she is head of Commonwealth, she is the Queen of Canada, and she confirmed this in a letter to me. The court order was entered in Admiralty maritime jurisdiction, and CCRA quickly issued a motor vehicle tax assessments for the years 1996 and 1997. These issued fabricated numbers are produced out of thin air because there are no tax laws that capture natural free men and free women to bondage slavery in Admiralty maritime jurisdiction, unless, of course, you consent to their tax contracts by voluntary compliance. Watch From Freedom to Fascism by Aaron Russo and understand the definition of these words. I appealed the assessment and appeared as a self-litigant before Judge R.W. Rowe. I entered 3 5-inch binders of evidence that took me 8 months to prepare in order to explain my truth. Judge Rowe ruled in my favor in 2002 because the tax contract was not signed by me, and he referred the assessment back to the Minister of National Revenue for reconsideration. Ignoring the judgment, CCRA garnished my HSBC bank account. When a bank employee handed over my deposit and said, "Irene, take the money and run," I knew that I was on a very important mission. I pursued a meeting with the vice president of HSBC and told him that I felt raped by this garnished bank account because CCRA judge's decision. Drew Hawkins, an experienced banker from England, replied, "Irene, this happens all the time." In a telephone discussion with CCRA collection agent Lily Chung, she said, "We don't care what went on in court. We just want the money." I knew that there was something wrong with this tax system. Where do taxes go and who controls the money? So I put the bankers to a test and went to a mortgage broker to find the best interest rate and banking package. Drew Hawkins of HSBC was frustrated and called me in for a meeting, saying that perhaps he can help me with another type of bank account that would protect me. I turned down his offer because he could not guarantee the stop of another CCRA grab to my account. I also discovered that HSBC works with the IRS and mailed a letter to the president of HSBC for Canada and sent a copy of my claims to New York, questioning why the IRS has a right to obtain interest information on Canadian bank accounts. The mortgage broker was surprised when I told him that I would not provide the social insurance number. I explained that CCRA was a third party and had no business getting involved with this business transaction. He insisted that the SIN was required because he needed to do a credit check. I asked him to compromise and provided him with letters of references from bank managers and a copy of my state of title certificate. He accepted this and began to work on getting me a good mortgage. A few days later, he phoned to inform me that the North Shore Credit Union placed an offer to finance the mortgage of my home. When I met with the North Shore Credit Union mortgage representative, I was surprised to see the SIN number on all the bank documents. I informed her that I could not sign these documents as I never provided the SIN because CCRA is third party and I will not permit third party interference to a bilateral contract, as that would mean I've committed fraud, and I will not commit fraud. She agreed, and we crossed out all the references to third-party referrals and taxes. I got copies of everything because she said that the originals had to go to head office for approval. This procedure is a trick because by signing these bank documents, you just became their named debtor instead of creditor, and I'm informed by hearsay that the bankers will multiply the value of this contract up to 400% on the international money market. I stopped paying my municipal property taxes and began to research the laws of taxes and banking. I watched the Money Masters many, many times and decided to ask questions about the allodial. First, I asked the North Shore Credit Union. I received no response. So then I asked the municipality. Again, silence. Then I asked the Land Title Office. Again, failure to respond. I provided the bank, municipality, and Land Title Office with a notice of my known name as copyright trademark with all rights reserved protection. I abandoned my social insurance number card by registered notice to CCRA and copied the Queen on all my correspondence and user accounts for copyright trademark name infringements in the year of January 2005. The bankers decided to hire a local lawyer who was noticed by me about being third party, as I gave him no permission to interfere in bilateral contracts for copyright trademark name infringements, and he backed off immediately. The bankers, North Shore Credit Union, went shopping for an aggressive foreclosure lawyer by the name of Andrew Burry of Gowlings and Henderson's in Vancouver, who proceeded immediately with a petition to foreclose. Tired of the courting games, a friend of mine, Dennis, encouraged me to pay for my mortgage by a CIC bond, which is called a Canadian Immigration Certificate Bond. This bond is issued by the Queen from Admiralty jurisdiction. Dennis was confident that I would succeed with this because he paid a CCRA tax for $250,000, which was based on Mary Elizabeth Croft's work. I mailed my CIC payments by registered notice. 1. About 500,000 CIC mortgage payment, and my municipal property taxes, which I believe were about $15,000, a CCRA bill for approximately $58,000 and then a Citibank credit card. So all these bills were paid by a CIC bond. And he was the first Canadian open gay member of the cabinet. However, Andrew Burry had an aggressive agenda for me, and the bankers proceeded to foreclose on my home despite the CIC bond payment. I appeared before Justice Silverman on August 2005 with my 3 private witnesses. The game began when we were shuffled along from one courtroom to another. Andrew Burry had stacks of foreclosure files, and he worked for more than one bank. I always wondered if this was not a conflict of interest. During the day, we watched Justice Silverman consciously toss people out of their homes with shuffled paperwork. Some people openly cried as they left the courtroom, not understanding why this was happening to them. I was amazed to see some wonderful, innocent, natural, free people appear before the bench without lawyers. But because the judge is hired by bankers, they are subjects and slaves of a system that must rule against all reasonable evidence presented by the people. I ran after one man who had his home foreclosed on because he missed one CIBC mortgage payment. He came from the Ukraine and told me he was going back to his home country, for at least there his government was honest with him. He's never seen anything so corrupt as this banking system, and he said that Canada took 3 years of his life. When it was my turn, I approached the bench alone, and the courtroom was virtually empty except for my witnesses, some CCRA agents, and bankers. Andrew Burry began to slander my name by calling me crazy because I had billed his client for millions of dollars for copyright trademark name infringements, and that he had to report his claim to his insurance company. He also said that I had billed CCRA for billions of dollars for copyright trademark name infringements. I was warned about this emotional bashing because it's a trick that they use to get you mad. This allows them to deem you as insane, particularly when you respond with emotional yelling and screaming, because this allows them to haul in the stretcher, pump the drugs into you, and then send you to a mental institution for close observation. There, at this mental institution, they'll drug you up for 6 months and then release you into the streets. Confused? You can't remember your name. You don't remember your family. You don't know where your home is. And you end up homeless on the street, pushing a buggy to beg for a cup of coffee. When the judge looked at me, he said, "Well, Miss Gravenhorst, I must ask you this question. Are you okay?" And because I was trained, I replied without emotion and said, "I'm fine," and proceeded with my evidence. I presented my affidavit number 2 and asked the judge, "Why am I here? I paid all my bills in good faith pursuant to the Bills of Exchange Act." That's when he said, "This doesn't look like a check." So I explained to him how I came upon its value. Then the judge turned to Burry and said, "Well, why is she here?" Andrew Burry said, "She didn't pay her property taxes, but she's completely up to date with her mortgage payments." So then I referred back to the affidavit. We discussed the home insurance company, Citadel, which was in debt to me for millions of dollars and had not paid me because I had revoked the original home insurance contract. Justice Silverman said, "Miss Gravenhorst, get a lawyer." It was 4 p.m., and regardless of all my evidence, Justice Silverman issued an order in eyesight which gives the vendor a 6-month window of opportunity to pay up again, like I did, or be subjected to an order for conduct of sale. Throughout all the paperwork issued by Andrew Burry, I responded with affidavits. There are 9 entered affidavits that claim common law jurisdiction on file at the Vancouver Court Registry. I use common law jurisdiction because I believe it has a Christed energy, as Jesus expressed his first anger in public in his temple to the money changers when they came in to charge usury interest rates on people. Common law jurisdiction lifts the veil of deceit and lets the judge know that you are a free man, free woman on land, and that he is a captain of ship of commerce governed by Admiralty Maritime Jurisdiction. In the meantime, I held my workshops out of my home, and 2 CCRA agents came to my workshop under fictitious names, Wilcox and Lauren Mania. Someone informed me that they were not from CCRA, but perhaps from CSIS, because CCRA doesn't have the espionage budget to hire professionals. These 2 agents obtained information about CCRA's debt to me and did not complete the workshop, and only Lauren paid. The tip-off about these 2 was that after a check on their names and their personal information, we drew complete blanks. After about a week later, I received a visit from a suspicious courier who worked out of a van down the street with an accomplice. My neighbors saw this and reported everything to me because I educated them on what I was doing. My neighbors were my biggest supporters. I urge you to get to know your neighbors. Have a cup of coffee with them. Find out who they are, because they can be a big help to you in times of need. As As my neighbors knew the truth, and over the past 13 years, we developed a strong friendship. Every time I had a party, they were invited. And every time they had a party, I was invited. We were the neighborhood block watch in the truest sense, supporting one another through good times and bad times. I urge you to get to know your neighbors. 6 months flew by as Andrew Burry continued with his papers to check me out of my home. I decided to ask for the return of the CIC bond on 3 occasions via Justice Silverman by fax because of a private sale between myself and a real estate investor. Neither the bank or the justice system responded, but instead I received a visit, a surprise visit, by the way, from a company by the name of Prudential. They work very, very closely with the North Shore Credit Union. Friends encouraged me to sell immediately, so I hired my real estate agent, Michael Shellhouse from Remax. Michael knew what I was doing as I showed him all my court documents, and I have a witness visiting from Ottawa to confirm all of this. Because my multi-million-dollar home was in a very desirable location, he sold my home in one open house day. It was on a Saturday. Michael also phoned the North Shore Credit Union to inform them of this sale. He presented 3 written offers and the phone would not stop ringing. I agreed to a serious offer that came with a $40,000 deposit. Despite a fax notice of the sale to his office, Andrew Burry was intent on changing the locks to the house and issued another court hearing. I had an agent appear on my behalf twice to get a trial date because I wanted to prove that the bonds were valid pursuant to the Bills of Exchange Act. The 2 judges who handled my files were Master Bolton and Master Barber. They would not grant a trial to my agent, so I showed up on the last court date with over 10 witnesses and Michael to prove that the house was sold before Master Bolton. In front of these witnesses in a chamber session, I stated my common law jurisdiction claims as agent for the capitalized name. Then Andrew Burry went again into slander about my name, calling me crazy, asking Judge Bolton for conduct of sale order. When he was finished, I introduced my affidavit 12, and the judge asked me if Andrew Burry had seen it. I said, no, I didn't hire him. He was supposed to act for the bank. Why would I need to disclose this information to him? I'm here to inform the judge, you, that the house is sold with a $40,000 deposit in trust with Remax. So I began to read the paragraphs from my affidavit, and all of a sudden the phone began to ring in the courtroom. Not once, but twice. The judge stood up and called in for the sheriff back up to imprison me. 5 fully armed sheriffs surrounded me. I looked into their eyes and calmly said, you do not have permission to touch me. And he was the first. Shuffle his papers. What happened then was amazing. It was like a parting of the seas with Moses, for they backed right off. I then started to talk loudly to Mr. Burry, who would not look me in the eyes, and as he avoided me as he began to shuffle his papers. A sheriff came up to me and told me to take the conversation outside of the courtroom. All of my witnesses followed me outside, and after a discussion with Michael, we went home. When I got home, there was an unsigned court order for conduct of sale from Andrew Burry in the mail slot. This is when I received 2 visits from the RCMP, who were just doing their job. They're just doing their job. By trying to get a jointer to the name and assumption and presumption on their piece of paper. You will note that one police officer tried to shake my hand. This is a trick to get you to agree to their... Notice how and why I refused to shake his hand. The change of locks to my home was a scare tactic, but you cannot force me to commit fraud. The house was sold, and I will not dishonor the contract of purchase and sale with Brad and Nicola. Not one court document or letter was ever signed by any of the judges who handled my file. After a second visit, I faxed a notice of appointment to 3 judges, naming the RCMP and sheriffs as my peace officer, and I never received another visit. I was able to have a beautiful garage sale, and I sold my home in peace. I am sure that the notice of appointment helped, but also I have 3 videos that filmed these 2 particular RCMP visit experiences. Understand who you are. Lift the veil of deceit and stand in truth to claim common law jurisdiction with equitable remedy by estoppel. I know it's a mouthful, and I know it's very legal, but I can teach you how to understand this. I sold my house through my notary and watched the vultures reap for a second payment to their fractional debt reserve notes, and then vanish from the banking system. Do the research and go to the court registry to look up the evidence. All you have to do is look up my name and the North Shore Credit Union. CCRA continues to mail documents to my no name, demanding me to file, and I realize that even though I abandoned the SIN number by registered notice and sent statutory declarations to the Queen, the reason why I continue to be in their Admiralty Maritime jurisdiction is because of all the other government pieces of ID. This one here, BC driver's license. This one here, a health card. And this one here, a Canadian immigration certificate card. These are all tied into the social insurance number, and you are a slave to their system as long as you carry this with you. I am not a slave to anyone or anything, and I'm certainly not a subject of the Queen or the private bankers. The only piece of ID that I have on me is a passport, which is jointly served by my notarized ID without the numbers attached to it. I've created this notarized ID and used it when I traveled to Ireland in the fall of the year 2006. I had to pass through the Heathrow Airport, Dublin Airport, Shannon Airport, and then I went to the Amsterdam Airport. I also ended up in Calgary Airport, Montreal Airport, and I believe Toronto Airport with this piece of ID. It's a self-made ID, and I teach you how to produce it in my workshops. Understand the word freeman, free woman, and free children. Freeman means you are tax exempt. So what's it to be? Are you a slave or a master of your own destiny? I freed myself from having registered assets in Admiralty Maritime jurisdiction by the sale of my home despite the North Shore Credit Union's and Andrew Burry's aggressive foreclosure proceedings. The reason why the pirates know my name as North Shore Credit Union and their gangster, Andrew Burry from Gowlings, could not change the locks to my home is as follows. I received no court order signed by Master Bolton. I do not consent to their jurisdiction.
I'll let you know in a bit.
The RCMP officers could not create a jointer by assumption and presumption of the assumed name on their papers because I continued to claim my position as agent to the capitalized name. Watch on the film closely how many times I repeat this claim. I did not leave my private property, despite the RCMP's invitation to go to his car for a private meeting away from the cameras. And then I also had 3 video cameras filming the entire procedure. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not need guns. Use a camera as your tool to educate them. And the internet can also help you bring the truth forward. I cannot and I will not watch humanity suffer. Therefore, as an ambassador of change, I want to free our human children from bankers and tax slavery to restore peace to our sentient home known by name as Earth. I can guide you to understand this work, but I am not here to rescue you. I teach people in role-play scenarios how to appear in court as a free woman or free man, to speak as the agent for the artificial person name that they have on paper before them. In the workshop, you are asked to participate in a kangaroo court scenario. You'll be asked to respond to a door knock experience when the CCRA, FBI, CIA, CC's agent appear at your door. You'll be asked to deal with your anger and your fears. Express your voice in truth and understand that you can say no to contracts that do not benefit you. You'll be asked to cut up pretend SIN cards and government ID. When you understand how the Just Us system works, you can free yourself. The workshop is usually on the weekends because most people work during the week, but I am prepared to make exceptions for those who really want to understand this system. By condensing 19 years of legal experience and evidence into a 2.5-day intense workshop, you may have to review, and these are free, your reviews, so that you can continue on with this work. No drugs or alcohol is permitted, and anyone suspected of the infringement of this condition is refunded their money and asked to leave and will not be permitted to return. I am tired of their games, and I'm certainly not the Queen's subject or slave, because I swore no conscious oath when I got my Canadian certificate. I have not paid taxes since 1995, and they will not subpoena me to court for failure to file because CCRA owes me trillions of dollars in debt for copyright trademark name infringements. Bringing me into their jurisdiction creates further financial liability that names them as new debtors to unpaid contracts that they dishonored by their silence. I'd like to show you how you could do the same thing. On paper, I am wealthy beyond measure, and I want to share this wealth with humanity. I must create a company, but I need help. If anyone is interested in effecting change, I'm not afraid. I need a simple credit card bookkeeping company with a mandate to balance my accounts/contracts. I want to create simple credit card contracts with people who have a deep understanding and yearning of freedom from limitations. I want this company to charge only for monthly or annual service or administration charges to produce monthly statements without usury, inflation, or taxes. Instead of direct taxes, 25% of the value of each contract would be donated to humanitarian projects, and instead of indirect taxes, 25% of the value would be donated to earth projects. This means that each credit card contract that I create with you, 50% of the total, will benefit humanity and Earth. I created a common law jurisdiction, tax-free, user-free, inflation-free currency by name.
Awesome.
I need a company with advanced technology to create a picture credit card and a group of people who are not afraid of bankers and their gangsters, to produce independent newspapers and TV programs that show the conspiracies so that people can be informed with the truth. So in closing, would you like to contract with me? Namaste.
We're going to do a video here. We're just going to talk about a few things, and there's a lot of misunderstanding. Hi people, the name is Mark, and we're going to do a video here, and we're just going to talk about a few things, and there's a lot of misunderstanding running around, okay? Now, if you're a citizen, you've lied to state that you are the person. Now, persons are citizens, citizens are persons. Persons who are citizens and citizens who are persons are not we the people. You are not considered to be a man. You are considered to be a human, a color of man, who is considered to be a monster, right? And basically who has no rights. You can't inherit anything at all because you're considered a monster, okay? So the Constitution's for we the people, okay? we the people, like for example, I am not a citizen of Canada. I stated that I am not a citizen of Canada. Their Charter of Rights and Freedoms states that every Canadian has the right to enter in, remain in, and stay in Canada. They're not talking about leaving Canada. They're talking about getting up and going on holiday. They're talking about leaving Canada, okay? Canada's just a name on a piece of paper, okay? So when people go, I'll say, well, where do you live? And they'll go, well, I live in Canada. So you're telling me you live on this piece of paper? Is that what you're telling me? Okay, people, it's time to wake up. I'm not talking water term here. Myself, I reside in my body. I'm not a resident. I'm not a reside ant. I just reside in my body, okay? So the Constitution is for we the people. If you've applied for the creation of a birth certificate, the birth of a certificate, okay, if you've applied, well, that makes you a liar. That thus turns you into an applicant, and you thus can't lie afterwards because they know you're a liar. They've framed you. You'll notice everything happens in the framework here on the ship or on their documents. Everything's been framed. And you know what they do with frames? They frame criminals, okay? Crime and all. See rhyme and all, okay? So if you've agreed to be a person, which is a citizen, okay, well, you are now on this ship. You think you're on land, but I got news for you. You're on the waterways, the seaways of commerce here, to be exact, okay? So I just want to establish that. Stop running around if you're a citizen going, well, I have rights. I have rights. You have no rights. You've agreed not to have no rights. Just look up the 10 kabajillion bylaws, statutes, acts, and who makes the bylaws? Whoever buys those laws makes them. Whoever pays for them. So that's another thing I want to address. Who does the law start with? Okay, let's keep this simple. It starts with you. And if you don't make your own laws, well, what's going to happen is somebody else is going to make them for you. And you're just going to be another slave in a cotton field picking cotton, okay? So now that we've established that, like myself, I said I'm not a Canadian. There are bylaws, rules, regulations, statutes, and acts, because they're all just acts of bullshit, acts of licentiousness, acts of the wicked. Everything's an act, okay? And I'm not a Canadian. And I told them I'm not a Canadian. Not only did I tell them I'm not a Canadian, I went to the Court of Queen's Bench here in Canada to let them know that I'm sitting on a certified Attorney General's office, straight from the Justice and Attorney General's office department, okay, that I am not a Canadian, and this has been submitted to the Court of Queen's Bench here in Edmonton, Alberta. And the file number is 100307201. And I'm going to show you this, and this has been filed right here. Hopefully you guys can see all this, okay? It says that's a true certified copy, and this is what I carry around, and it tells them that I'm not a Canadian, and it says filed in the Judicial Center of Edmonton, clerk of the court. So you know the court got this, and the judge got this, and the whole 9 yards. And it says here, everyone has not to be compelled to be a witness in proceedings against that person. We don't care, whatever. But the bottom line is, it says here that everything's being revoked. There's the court file number, the court stamp. It's all being revoked. This has went through the Court of Queen's Bench to tell them that I'm not a Canadian. And not only am I not a Canadian, I'm not a person on their invisible vessel / prison / ship. Okay, people? Everything happens on the ship. Friendship, slave ship, citizenship, trusteeship. Get off that ship, okay? So, now, we were talking about who does the law start with. Let's take this a notch higher. It actually starts with God. Take man's laws and throw those out the window, okay? I'm not a Canadian, so Canada's laws, take those and throw those out the window, okay? The reason, now, people might go, well, you're lawless. No, actually, I have more duty to be more mindful of what I do in life because I follow God's laws. And God's laws are simple. You go steal a candy bar at a store, you'll pay for it because your conscience will tell you otherwise. So if you think there's no creator, you're gravely mistaken, okay? So, God doesn't cut down trees to impose laws because that would be unnatural. So all this stuff here that happens on the ship is unnatural, okay? So please, people, if you're a 14th Amendment citizen, that makes you a 14th Amendment slave, and stop running around proclaiming that you have rights. No, I have grace, and that comes from God. If you want to deal in rights, rights are something that a man can give and a man can take, okay? And a prime example, I know of so many people here in Edmonton, man, where the government's going after them, they've been taking their houses, and then at the end they're going, oh, well, you know, I can't believe this happened to me and poor me. And it's like, well, what'd you expect, man? You want to support crime because to be a citizen means that it's criminal, crime and all, and you are a criminal. And in fact, they framed you, and not only did they frame you, you rocked up and said that you wanted to be the person, the criminal that's been framed in this, okay? So now, you might be going, well, what are these documents that you're holding here, okay? Canada drew up a debt, and they said anybody that wants to participate can apply and state that they are this person and fall part under the debt. Now, they're the surety to the debt. That means that whoever applies for a birth certificate, they're going to pay this debt. So what I did was I took this debt down to the Attorney General's office, and I said, you guys can have this debt, and this shows that this is their debt, and that they are the exchequer to excheck these checks, and that they will pay for this debt. This is not my debt, okay? God never gave me debt, okay? God never gave me debt just like God gives me free water, okay? I don't have to run it through a faucet, okay? You have to understand this, people. You can have complex, which equals untrue, or you can have the truth, which requires a few words, okay? I don't even have to talk to somebody. I mean, I could be sitting around with a room full of Mexicans or Chinese or whatever, and we can have a good meal and all sit there and rub our bellies, and we all speak the same language. We don't even have to say a word. All we got to do is smile and jam a fork in our face, okay? So that's what I want to establish here. Now, something else, all these people who are citizens and lied to state that they are persons on this ship, and that they're no longer on land. Well, you can't have lawful excuse. Lawful excuse comes from the Creator, okay? And my lawful excuse is, I don't deal in bylaws, acts, rules, regulations, stacks, and acts of licentiousness. I don't deal in that. I deal in the Creator's laws. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, people. I'm no angel. I've never been an angel. I've did bad shit in my life, too, in my stupid younger years, just like many of you have. But it's what we choose to do with those decisions that's how we're going to progress. And a lot of people, too, they're going, well, you know, if you're a person or a citizen and you've applied to be that person and a citizen, well, now you're an enemy to the state. Okay, the reason why you're an enemy to the state is because they framed you and you've walked up and you applied and even paid a processing fee, and they'll process you like a piece of cheese to state that you're this person and you're going to pay this debt right there. Okay, I'm sorry, but you have to have rocks in your hand. Okay, so that's why I went to the, what's it say here, Justice and Attorney General's office to say, this is your debt, guys, not mine. And I am not Mark Simser. How can I be a name on a piece of paper? You want to talk to Mark Simser? Here he is. Okay? I'm not to be compelled to be a witness in proceedings to talk about this person, because who cares? He's dead, right? Put that underneath. That's my understanding. I stand over these documents, right? Let them have the debt. So, lawful excuse comes when you turn around and you say you're not a Canadian, and the pursuit of happiness and the Constitution. Well, isn't it funny, the pursuit of happiness? If you want to be happy, you better not be a citizen / person / tax-paying slave, because you'll never be happy paying a debt that can never be paid. Who's this debt owed to? You know what I mean? Really. Ask yourself who this debt is owed to, and then you might want to talk with this person, right? So anyhow, you know, back to the pursuit of happiness, here's the court papers. And this just lets them know, people. I even drew up a world passport just to say, you know, that I am in the flesh and the sound mind and complete my faculties. Now hereby certify that blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm just not a Canadian. And there's another one. And all this stuff I do, people, gets run through here. Now, how do I know if you want out of the system, you drop a death certificate. You say, this is a death certificate for Mark Simser, upper and lowercase, listed 10 million ways. I don't care. Do what you feel from the heart. State that you're not a Canadian. State that you are not this person. All licenses, all acts of licentiousness have been returned to you. And not only have they been returned to you, they've been certified. These people deal in certificates, people. I can't emphasize this enough. So if you think you're going to get out of that system and you're not going to use a certificate, well, they'll just eventually pick you up and throw you in jail. Now, how do I know this? Because I like to prove everything I do, okay? Everything. And it says here, this is from the Ministry of the Attorney General, Legal Services B Branch. Ministry of Government Services, Ferguson Block, 77, Numbers of Divinity, Wellesley Street West, 6th floor, the number of the beast. Oh my God, here we go in Toronto, Ontario, right? So now, it's funny, Direction des Services Juridiques, right? Jurisdictional Services, Ministère des Services Gouvernementaux. And so anyhow, it says the date, and it says to who it's from, care of, and it says, dear so-and-so, and it says, read correspondence sent to the Honorable David so-and-so only regarding so-and-so on such and such date. I am a lawyer with the Ministry of Government Services. I have been asked by the off-ice, so they're not even players on the ice, they're all off-ice, of the lieutenant, the lieutenant, governor for the province of Ontario to review certain correspondence and documents that you sent to the Honorable David C. Onley. The correspondence that has been sent by you and regarding you to the Lieutenant Governor is incomprehensible and appears to have no basis in the Canadian law. So this person sent back all their shit, never had it certified. You know what they said? Sorry, man, we deal in these. You want to be a monkey and you don't want to deal with these? Well, then you're just going to continue to be a tax-paying slave. It's just that simple. So anyhow, and it says, here's the kicker, and I'm going to show this to you guys because, again, I like to prove what's going on. I don't like to talk horse shit here. It says, your letter contains several pieces of original identification documents and a sealed letter from the Receiver General. So they received this stuff, but you know what? They had no power to deal with it because it wasn't certified. You drive the car, you operate the court, you do everything. And even then, stay out of the courts. You want to operate, look at the words, owe and per rate, don't worry. They'll rate you and you will owe, okay? So if you think you got power, take the PO and you will be an owner of that debt, okay? So now, grace comes from God. So, anyhow, back to that. And a sealed letter from the Receiver General from the Government of Canada. Each of these documents has been forwarded for processing to the appropriate provincial or federal government office. So basically they're saying we can't do nothing. You have no legal basis in Canadian law. Can I die in law? Canadien, hence Canadien, right? Neither the Lieutenant Governor nor any agent of the Government of Ontario will be taking any further action in response to the correspondence that has been sent to the Lieutenant Governor regarding this or related matters. And it says, D. Jacob Legal Counsel, count and sell. They'll sell and they'll count, don't worry. The office of the Lieutenant and Governor of Ontario. Okay? So, now, you people have to understand here, what's going on is, because nothing was certified, they can't do anything with it. These people deal in certificates. You don't think they deal in certificates? Here's a certificate, here's a certificate, here's a certificate, there's a certificate. Okay, people, they deal in marriage, mar and rage. Okay, rage of the waters. They deal in marriage certificates, death certificates. Man, it doesn't burst, it doesn't stop, okay, people? And that's the creation of certificates, and there we go. And this is what the court deals in, okay? You go to court and you think, oh, well, I'm going to play a game of cards, which effectively that's what you're doing. You're going to court, and whoever has the best suit, which you don't, because they wear the Armani's, okay, R and man, they wear those highfalutin expensive suits. So who do you think has the best suit? Who do you think is going to win? These people have the most chips. Okay, they have the most liability. They have the most ability to lie, hence reliability, the ability to rely again. So if you're walking in with a limited amount of liability of $10 and you're getting into a poker game, well, you can't even ante up with these boys because they've got billions in liability. So you think you're going to sue these people? You ain't suing shit. Okay, this is Caesar's world. Okay, now the reason why I have Think Certificate certificate to state that I'm not a Canadian. I have lawful excuse because I'm not a Canadian and I don't follow your rules, regs, and acts and stats. It's not permission, permission for me to run around and cause people harm. No, au contraire, mon frere. My responsibility has been heightened by this fact that I shall do no harm. And sometimes it's a very hard pill to swallow. I could be pulling in $100,000, $200,000 a year being an electrician, and then I have people running around judging me going, oh, well, you could be making all kinds of stupid money, and they're judging me in that. And so effectively, you're judging me, not only judge not, lest ye be judged. You want to pass judgment on me when I don't want to whore myself out for these oil fields, okay, and pollute your future children's water. And then people run around and look at Jesus Christ. The masses killed him, not Caesar. Not Pontius Pilate. Those people didn't kill him. They may have claimed title to him afterwards, but they didn't kill him. The masses. The mass says. It was people like you who try to persecute me and then go, oh, well, you must have such a good life. No, au contraire. And then I have people going, oh, you're a freak, you're this, you're that. No, I ain't no freak. I'll tell you. You know who freaks are? And I'm not passing judgment here. This is truth. A freak is anybody who goes out and poisons somebody's water and knowingly, conscientiously does it. Okay, so people, stop with the bullshit here, okay? I'm no God, I'm no angel, I'm no perfect angle of light. I don't claim to be, but one thing I do claim to do, my conscience, man, this is my temple, and I'm working on my temple, because my kingdom, it's not of this place, man, that's for sure, because this place is nothing but sheer stupidity. Sheer stupidity. They're so stupid that they want to shit and piss in their own water, and then they want to go frack it all up and go, oh, I'm making $50 an hour. Yeah, well, you wait till your bottle of water costs you $1,000, and you're only making 50. Okay, we'll see what's shaking then, man. So anyhow, people. Now, how do I know they deal in these certificates and they recognize these certificates? I don't know. Let's take a look here at the state of Washington and the Secretary of State. Okay, that comes from the government of Colombia. Oh, the private banking district section of almost the whole wide world. There you go, people. Can't make this up. And it says, United States of America, to all to whom these presents present shall come. Okay? I told them I wasn't a Canadian. I sent all this stuff into them. It was pre-sent. It was certified, notarized. They were thus able to deal with that file. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to deal with that file. And you'd be back to a letter like this, which I don't believe I showed. And anyhow, we're just going to go like this. Okay, so there's the part there too, with the several pieces of ID that can't take any further action, right? You know, like people, please, I can't make this up. So now, back to this, okay? I may sound like I'm a little edgy and agitated with stuff, but yeah, I am agitated. I'm agitated with the ways people are always trying to suck me into such a stupid system. Oh, let's go do harm to our neighbors. Oh, let's pick up guns. Let's pay taxes so we can kill our neighbors overseas. Whoa. Man, I was looking at a picture of an elephant today, and I sat there and I basically cried. I couldn't believe that somebody would do that. You know, really. It's like, anyhow, we're going to get back to this. To all to whom these presents shall come. Greetings. Hey, that's cool. I certify that the document hereunto, key words here, certify, hereunto annexed is under the seal of the District of Columbia, and that such seal is entitled to full faith and credit. That's full faith and credence, folks. And it says in testimony whereof I, so you know these people aren't messing around, it's Hillary Rodham Clinton, okay, you know, like Buckingham Palace. You think there's some bucks in ham? Okay, people, wake up, okay? I, Hillary Rodham Clinton, Secretary of State, have hereunto caused the seal of the Department of State to be affixed, and my name subscribed by the Assistant Authentication Officer of said department. So they're not even in a compartment, they're in a department. So there's no men there. At the city of Washington, Washington, maybe after you've been washed out, you'll move to misery, okay? Maybe you'll get tired of living in misery, you'll move to Hellas, Spain. Take the S out of pain. You people better wake up here, man. You guys have been had hook, line, and sinker here. Okay, that's why it's called probate court. And so anyhow, and it says at the City of Washington, District of Columbia, this 22nd day. So District of Columbia is the private banking section. Now, what they're doing is they're not giving me full faith and credence here. Okay, they're just recognizing their own system and giving these people full faith and credence. Hillary Rodham Clinton full faith and credence. Now, that makes these people the witness that I have lawful excuse because I'm not a citizen. If you were a citizen, you were a person, you have no lawful excuse. I have lawful excuse. Okay? And right here, District of Columbia. Look at that nice good gold seal, man. There you go, guys. It's as good as gold. Good as gold. Now, you're all running around and you people are going, oh, well, we want money and we're entitled to this. People, they have no money. They're broke. You have to understand this, okay? God gave us free parking. We didn't have to pay for that stuff, you know? So now you guys can see where we're going with this. And there's probably a couple of other things I wanted to touch on. And I'm just going to make sure here. Like, basically, people, the Constitution is for we the people. It's not for citizens. Citizens have no rights. So if you're a citizen and you've agreed to be a person which is a citizen who has no rights, well then stop running around assuming that you are we the people. No, citizens are not we the people, okay? Slaves are not we the people. Slaves are persons. Persons are people who have agreed to be citizens who have cited themselves as being citizens on the, get this, citizenship. Okay? So, now, like, once again, lawful excuse. You have no lawful excuse if you've agreed to be a person and apply for an Ontario birth certificate and a social insurance number and live in the world of sin, hence the acronym SIN, right? You know, and, you know, here's something else. Canadians are going, oh, well, you know, like we go to court and we're using American case law and you're citing that. Well, A, why are you citing somebody else's case law? My law comes from God, so why would I cite case law? God has no case law. God is the law. God doesn't need a case because we're the cases, the basket cases to be exact, okay, people? So, you know, now, then they go, oh, well, in Canada, we don't use Black's Law. No, they use the Canadian Law Dictionary, in fact. But where do you think those words are derived from as well? And if you think that Canada doesn't follow U.S. law, well, the Miranda right? You have the right to remain silent. Isn't it funny that they use, American cops use that, constables on patrol use that down in the States, and that's what they use in parade here in Canada, right? You have the right to remain silent. See where we're going with this, people? That's the only right you have because that comes from God. Nobody can take that away from you. You people must understand this. You people want to live in a world of sin, taxation, debauchery, the whole 9 yards, and the minute you add money, you throw love out the window. You do something from the heart, it's gratuitous, man, and to God force, oh, it'll reward you 10,000 times over. Life knows good, right? Like, you know. So anyhow, and so all that stuff, oh, we don't use Black's Law here. The bottom line is, people, words are words, right? Take them for what they are, you know, and don't think you're going to go using their stuff against them. Just walk up and say, listen, I'm not even a Canadian, and if you say otherwise, when the Attorney General and Hillary Rodham Clinton's office and everybody else, the whole wide world knows what I'm doing, that's fraud on them. See how fast the buck stops there? That's fraud. You understand that, people? That is one word that people do not like and people do not want to deal with. Don't you come rocking up and telling me otherwise when the Attorney General knows what I'm doing. They are the witnesses. So people stop running around going, oh, I'm the witness. So you're a sinner because you're a witness? Really? People give up that crap, okay? Let them witness this. And if you think you're going to play on both sides of the fence and act as a citizen and then claim, oh, well, I'm not a citizen and all that stuff, you know, it's a learning experience from everybody, but let me tell you, when you're sitting on the fence, you're going to have God and Satan pulling at you. And you know what? God can't help you when you walk up and you agree to apply and become a liar and get on a ship. God never told you to go out to sea, man. Never. Right? No. We're land-loving creatures, man. In fact, where do you go when you're dead? You go to ground, because that's where they bury electricity, man. Electricity flows to ground, right? People. So, you know, and Just going to look at things here for another second. So, something else. If you're a citizen, you've applied and you've agreed to be a citizen / person, that makes you a shittizen, okay? You're a piece of shit, okay? Sort of bursted to you, but basically, you're an enemy to the state. The reason why you're an enemy to the state is because you're an enemy to the state of God, the grace of God, because you'll go poison our waters and everything else by fracking it up. Okay, so it's just that simple. That makes you the enemy to the state. I'm no longer an enemy to the state. Maybe the government looks at me like I'm an enemy to the state, but at least I'm not the one poisoning water. But I'm not a citizen who's agreed to be an enemy to the state. Okay, people, I haven't agreed to be an enemy to the state and get on a ship where I can't get off if I don't like what they're telling me. Okay, the only way to get off that is drop a death certificate and state that you are not a Canadian. Okay, people, certificates. I can't embed this in your heads, man. You know. So anyhow, you know, it's just so many things here. You know, it's like people just stop living in fear. Maybe you live in the atmosphere. Like I say, you want to move to Missouri because you're so, there's so much misery going on, you know. Then you want to move into Connecticut, Net, and iCut. Oh, don't worry, they'll take your cut because they're cons. You have to see where I'm going with this, people. It's just, you know, maybe you live on the planet. You're part of the Net plan. What do you get at the end of the week? The Net pay. And again, you live in the atmosphere, right? It's people. I can't make this stuff up. You've been blindsided. And everybody goes, well, what am I going to do? And where am I going to sleep? And if I give up being a slave, well, I'm sorry, but if you want to be a slave, you're going to soon find out that when Satan's side of the things are coming, they're going to take everything you own. And you should see my video about being possessed by BUI possessions, okay? They can't take nothing you ain't got. They can't take this. This is mine, man, no matter what. No matter what, I'm not going to be blinded by the light, right? I know where all creation starts, right? It starts in the darkness, like the mighty lotus. Starts under the water. All that is created starts from that which is not seen to come into the world of the seen, right? So even when I go, I'm not going to the light, man, because I know I'm going back to the creative source, which is the darkness, to come back into the light, right? So people, do not be blinded. Be blinded by the light. Okay, because there's many things out there, and there's lots of whores, and there's lots of prostitutes in sheep's and wolf's clothing and stuff, that they're all running around and they're going, oh, well, I want your money, and I can show you how to do your taxes this way and everything else. And I'm telling you, people, it's very, very, very bad stuff. It's, you know, some people, yes, they're old, it's too late for them, I understand that. This woman even complimented me the other day on YouTube, and I mean, wow, I was blown away, and she just basically told me that she opened her eyes to this air prison, and like, people have to realize that that's all it is. It's an air prison. Get out of it, right? All these people, they're running around and they want to make money their God. That's why the American dollar bill says, in God we trust, because people don't want to trust in God. They want to trust us. T stands for title and Ross, right?
Savannah, get her a diaper.
Money,
right?
Like people, money is, look at the words M-O or on and I or whatever, right? Money, on, I, right? That's why they got the all-seeing eye dollar on top, the pyramid, the whole 9 yards. Like, demon, right? You have to look at these words, and that's effectively, if you're going to make money your God, well, I'm sorry, in God you will rust, okay? Now, if you make God your God, and you're not whoring yourself out, you're not contaminating people's drinking water, the whole 9 yards, you know, like I say, I'm no angel neither, people. I did some stupid shit. But when you start waking up in that God-given force called the conscience that's been injected to you, people stop living in fear of this meat-coated skeleton, man. You know, somebody could kill me tomorrow. Who cares? Who cares? I'll laugh. I'm going to go, and I'm going to be off again, and I'll be on another mission. And this time I'll be unstoppable on that mission. Right? Who's going to shoot me then? You going to shoot light? Come on. You know, people, stop being blinded by the light and stop running around claiming that you're debt slave / person / citizens, and then going to court and you've never made any certified claims otherwise, and then you're going to court and you're going, well, I'm not this person. Well, that's fraud in their world. Okay, people, so we're going to start off here. We're in Black's Law 1, and it says a bond. It says a contract by specialty to pay a certain sum of money, being a deed or instrument under seal. Let's look at things here. This has the government's of Alberta's name on it here, and Canada, and the Private Banking Dominion, and Solicitor General, the Attorney General, and it goes on, and anyhow, you can see it's under a seal. It's been bound with a wax seal, just add a U. And it says, so there's a contract here by specialty to pay a certain sum of money. Now, Canada is bankrupt, okay? So effectively, they run around with debt notes. People go to, they call them debit machines, but you take the I out and you have debt. So they're going to a debt machine. So there is no money. So it says, so anyhow, contract by specialty to pay a certain sum of money. So these people are saying that when they started off with a statement of live birth, and even if they drew up a birth certificate, so long as you did not come up and apply for that and state that you were the person who is the subject of the birth certificate, well then these people here are responsible for this, and you've got this certified that they are responsible for this. Now, we're going to come back, we're going to minimize this for a second. So we've established all that, and then we're going to come here and we're going to see what the rest of this says. And then it says, being a deed or instrument under seal. Well, we've established this, that this is definitely a deed, indeed. It's got paper, it's under a seal. See, this page here is under a seal, and there's a statement of a live birth, or a statement of birth, right? And you can see that it's been certified, the whole 9 yards. So, in a nutshell, they've been bound to this because I am not a Canadian. But if I came up and I said that I wanted to apply for this and become the person who is the subject of the birth certificate, well, then you are stating that you are the one who is now bound to this, right? And you're stating that you are going to pay the debt, okay? And so then you're dealing in a fool's gold, which, back to the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, the beans are worth more than the gold, because the moral to the story is you can't eat your gold. So a contract, then, so if you rock up and apply to be that person, which is subject to a piece of paper, which is the birth certificate, or the statement of a live birth with a S/UR name, well, you are not a name, and you cannot be this as you are the flesh. So you never want to agree to be a piece of paper, which is the person. So if you never apply for any of this whatsoever, this is their person, and they are the security to this end of this person. Otherwise, if you rock up and you say, well, I want to become the guy who's going to pay a certain sum of money and under the seal and become a slave. And if you look at bond and you add age, A-G-E, age of the bond age, slavery, keywords, involuntary personal servitude, captivity in Old English law, villanage, and look at the words, you take V out and you have ill and an age of the ill, villain tenure, you're 10 of the ill. Whoa, bonded warehouse, bondsman, a surety, one who has entered into a bond as a surety. So if you've applied to be this person who is the subject of a birth certificate, well, I'm sorry, you have established yourself as a legal, the oldest form of prostitution identity, and I'm sorry, but basically now you're going to apply for derivers licenses, and social insurance numbers, and now you're starting to pay for insurance because you're a liar and you like to lie, hence you've applied. So effectively, you guys can see where we're going with this. And it's funny, if you look up subject, and, we can do that, actually. We might as well. So we'll come to here, and we're going to look up subject. And we'll come into blacks too, and I'm going to show you. So we've established that bondage, slave, and if you apply for the birth certificate, well, you're stating that you are the subject to a piece of paper and that you have no rights. I've established that if you go to court and start claiming equity and all that stuff, well, legal precedes equity, and it's just bullshit. That's right. We were talking about subject, I believe. And patient. And listen to what this is going to say. So you can see right here, people, this is all blacks, and you're dealing with some black stuff, and it says subject. In logic, manufactured stuff. It says, get this, that concerning which the affirmation, there's been affirmations on this because this is a bond, and we've stated what a bond is. It's an agreement and an assurance in writing for somebody to pay a debt. And we've established that through certificate. We're establishing that all over. One thing just ties right into another. That concerning which the affirmation in a proposition, there's a proposition here that I declared that I was not a Canadian and that this certificate is the object of legislation. There's no doubt about that. So again, you're dealing in a fool's gold. Now you're accepting the debt if you apply to become that birth certificate. So that's the subject of legislation. Then it says the constitutions of several of the states require that every act of the legislature shall relate to but one subject. And do you know what that one subject is, guys? It's the birth certificate. If you have that one subject, that makes you a subject to a piece of paper, which could be a statement of birth and a birth certificate because you've applied for it, and then you got into the social insurance number program and got entered into the World for Sin, SIN, short for the acronym. And then you've agreed to, once again, establish S-table, put on the table that you are a legal identity. Are you a gal? People, I'm just throwing this out there. Do you live at an address? Do you wear dresses? Do you live on the outskirts? Do you like to wear skirts? I don't know what it is people like to wear anymore. So you can see where we're going with that. We're going to keep going. So that is, the birth certificate is the main thing which is subject of the legislation. So even if you don't have driver's licenses and you don't have other licenses and this and that, if you are the subject to that piece of paper, which is the birth certificate and a statement of live birth, well then you thus become a slave to that. So you can't run around going traveling and stuff like that even though you don't have a license, because you've agreed that you will be subject, and constitutions require that every act of that legislation shall relate to but one subject, and that's the birth certificate. So if you agree to be a birth certificate and then you go to court and say, well, I'm not that person, I'm not you are name, right? I'm not that name, that's the birth certificate. Well, I'm sorry, but you've agreed to be the subject of a piece of paper, which is the birth certificate. So then it goes on, so we said, require that every act of the legislature shall relate to but one subject, which shall be expressed in the title of the statute. There's the title, folks, right there. There's definitely a title, and this has become a statute. It's dead, and that's it. It's a statute, effectively, in their world. And because I'm not a Canadian, well, I am not a subject. And it's funny, it says here, in constitutional law, and we're still under subject here, one that owes allegiance to a sovereign and is governed by his laws. See, I don't owe allegiance to sovereigns, and I'm not governed by their laws. I've said, listen, I am not a Canadian. I've left Canada. That went through the Court of Queen's Bench, through the Attorney General's office, and everybody has further certified and stated that they would be the assurance for me to do that, and I thank them for that, honestly. So you guys can see where we're going with that. So effectively now, what we're going to do here is we're going to take Black's Law 9, so that was Black's Law 2, and Black's Law 9, this might sound a little more in clarity for you. See, when these people started drawing all that up, they draw that up, they were agreeing to be responsible for it. But then people came along and started agreeing to be the security to this person, the surname, you are a name, which you are not a name. You cannot be a name, and that's why in the Bible, God said, I am that I am, and Moses is like, oh, well, how will I know? And God says, you'll know when I come. Don't you worry about that. That's not important, right? You'll know. So you can see where we're going with this, people. And these people, it says here, in the year of our AD, after descendants, I'm going to see if we can get this up here, and anyhow, it says under the seal, and you can see this. It's under the seal, and it says AD in here, Foreign Affairs, the whole 9 yards, and it's under the seal. So effectively, they've agreed to be the assurance and pay the debt to this, but then people rocked up and they applied for the ever elusive, and look at the words, elusive birth certificate, and they became the person, and then they became the insurance. Right? And it says here in Black's Law 9, it says a written promise to pay money or do some act. We know the government deals with acts, and I'm not a person, so I don't deal with acts, but these people do, right? And, or do some act if certain circumstances occur. So even if the police were to pull me over because I'm not a Canadian, this is their document, and this ensures their actions because they have given the assurance for this. Right? It's been certificated here, they further certify here. Obviously, something is going on. So they're willing to pay for this now that I'm not a Canadian. So this is no longer my debt. This is their debt. And it's effectively a fool's gold. And we'll explain something maybe if I remember in a second. And then it says, a promise that is defeasible upon a condition subsequent, especially an instrument under seal. We've established that this is under seal. And this is AD, there it is, in the year of our Lord, our Savior. So these people have agreed to look after this for me, and that's why I'm not a Canadian, and I have to thank these people, and they've been pretty cool about it. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't live to tell you this story. And so anyhow, it says, an instrument under seal by which a public officer, this is Mary E. Clark she's the public officer from the Attorney General's office, and effectively, she is the one who undertakes to pay a sum of money if he or she does not faithfully discharge the responsibilities of that office. A surety undertakes that if the public officer does not do so. The surety will be liable in a penal sum. Then it goes on to say, so they are responsible for this debt because I don't deal in debt, I deal in credit. And if you look at the word suretyship, it means to pay for the debt in the hands of another. Why would you pay for that? Pay for a debt, right? And so anyhow, then it goes on to say the distinguishing feature of a bond is that it is an obligation. There's some lies going on to pay a fixed sum of money at a definite time with a stated interest, and it makes no difference whether a bond is designated by the name of a bond or by some other if it possesses the characteristics of a bond. Well, I would say, oddly enough, this has been bound just out of you, and it carries it's got the ribbon through it, and it goes right through the pages, and this is effectively their money because they're bankrupt. And if you ever ask the Attorney General for a bond, this is probably exactly what they would give you back. So then it says, if it possesses the characteristics of a bond. Then get this, it says there is no distinction between bonds and certificates. So this is the bond, and that's as good as the certificate, which has been certified right here. So you see what I'm saying, people? They are the assurance to this, and they've agreed to pay this debt. And it says between bonds and certificates of indebtedness. So they are indebted to this people, not me. And they're just allowing me. I'm using these people to witness that I am not this, and I have no signatures with these people. and that I am the flesh. That's all I'm doing. And they said, we will be the assurance for this, which effectively allows you to pass through the reports with this, because they said they would assure your well-being. But they can't assure your well-being when you rock up and say that you're a Canadian and that you've applied for a birth certificate. Then you're ensuring that, and you're becoming responsible to a debt-based system when you never had to, when the government of Alberta or Canada, they've already did this for you, as promised in the year of our Lord our Savior, AD, right? And you can see where I'm going with this. And then it says, there is no distinction between bonds and certificates of indebtedness, which can conform to all the characteristics of bonds. People, I can't make this stuff up. I try to keep this stuff so simple for everybody, and so many prior videos in that I just truly helps. And they get into all kinds of bonds and stuff, and effectively, this bond here, because I'm not a Canadian, can I add in, or a can I die in, Canadien, right? Just look at the letters. Well, these people have agreed to be the assurance for my well-being and my safety, just because I'm not a subject to a piece of paper stating that by use of a legal profession. You never had to come along and make a piece of paper come alive and say that make a piece of paper, bring the dead to life and say that you're this paper. Why would you do that? God never asked you to do such a thing, right? That would be preposterous. And let's say, for example, here, if we come to suretyship, wait till this like, I just can't make this up, and like this goes out to everybody. Like, even if you're police officers or whoever you think you are, trust me, it's almost like that Bob Dylan tune. You know, you got to serve somebody, right? And I think it's around, there it is, suretyship. It says the contract of suretyship is that whereby one ob obligates himself to pay the debt of another. So they don't even have any money, and then you rock up and you say, well, I know you guys don't have any money, and even though you're bankrupt, I want to apply, be a liar, and state that you are no longer in the flesh, that you are now a piece of paper, and you become this, and now you are this, and you now become that, which is a piece of paper, and you are the subject, and we've stated what a subject is. And then to top it off, everything's on the citizenship side of yourself as being on a ship. So where one obligates himself to pay the debt of another. I stopped there at first. Now we're going to finish the rest of the sentence. I like to look at a few words at a time. In consideration of credit. Well, if you're paying it, if you agree, right, you whereby one obligate yourself to pay the debt of another in consideration of credit. Well, if it's a debt, where's the credit coming from? Why would you agree to use your body as a slave and be the credit when there is no money? There's debt, and then you're obligating yourself and lying to pay the debt of another. And then it goes on, or indulgence. So people are coming along and they're applying, and they are indulging in to be a person, to be a piece of paper who is the subject of a birth certificate, and state that they've established a legal identity. You never had to do this, because even if the governments of, say, Ontario or Alberta put this stuff out and they become the assurance for this, why would you come along and state that you're the assurance to this? Only a fool would. And then effectively you're running around as employees on the ship with social insurance numbers, and if you look at the back of those cards, the SIN cards, right, the SIN program to be exact, it actually has an employee number, and that makes you a chartered policy on the ship. And then people are going to court going, well, they're citizens with birth certificates, going, well, they're claiming that they got rights, and well, clearly they can't have rights when they've agreed to be the subject and establish themselves as the subject of a birth certificate, which is effectively a piece of paper. So we'll pretend that this is a birth certificate at the moment. And that's it, that's all. It's ludicrous. And then people, you can even become an applicant, because after that you can't lie in court, because you've told them already that you're an apply. You've applied, you've applied, and you'll probably swear in the Bible and the whole 9 yards, and even further negate yourself and tell these people that you're in sin, and then you'll speak up against yourself like a court jester would. So please, people, these documents here, because I'm not a Canadian, that puts me outside of Canada, and if anything ever happens, like between me and these people whatsoever, which I'd never, like, you know, do any harm or anything like that to them, because it's preposterous. They have guns and tanks and stuff. I don't. I'm just a creature of love and divinity. That's all I am and all I can be. So why would I want to rock up and agree to be the person who is the subject? I hope this message through, like, the grace of God is getting through me to you, to, like, because once that divinity hits you can't look back. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I would like to tell you. So they've already given you assurance. You never had to come up and rock up and state that you would be the assurance to that debt. And we've established what a bond is in Black's Law 1 and what a bond is in Black's Law 9. So we're going straight from one hemisphere, straight through the stratosphere to the other one side of the hemisphere, right? You can see where we're going with this, people. And furthermore, let's close this for a second, because the truth requires few words. It doesn't require all these things. We've kept things simple. We've established what certificates were in prior videos, bonds in this video and in the last video, and we're just keeping it that simple. And please, people, don't ever think that if sometimes I come off like, you know, it's like I'm reading fast and stuff. It's just my brain processes stuff faster, and I can you know, sometimes I got to be careful I'm not overlapping myself and stuff. And not because I'm hyper and I'm on coke or anything like that, because that's not the case. I don't do that shit. But anyhow, effectively, they've told you here on these documents that they're in the year of AD, and there it is. And then all of a sudden, in the year of our Lord, our Savior. So they're respecting you as long as you don't come up and start signing for this stuff, you know, giving up a signature a Senate year. And it's funny because if you look at, say, this birth certificate too, right? Say if you look at that, it's a one-sided contract with the dead, and I'll explain why. Watch this. I'll show you guys right now. This is how simple things are, people. This is, when you're dealing with the government, you're dealing with dead fictions, dead names on a piece of paper. It's like if I say to you, where do you live? And you say, oh, I live in Alberta. Well, how can you live in Alberta? Myself, I live in my body, right? That's where, you know, I reside, right? I reside with the side of God, not the side of death, which is just dead names on a piece of paper. So try suing the dead. That's the joke. And back to the birth certificate, being a one-way contract, right? You start clicking on this, it says complete and print the appropriate form, and then it says download, and well, I'm not going to download it. And then it'll say, who are you? You agree to be this person, the whole 9 yards. And look at the words agreed, there's the word agreed there, and you've agreed to be this person, and next thing you know, nobody, you're giving all this information, but do you see anybody who you're dealing with? And look at the words, express legal. So you're dealing with a bunch of people who are already claiming to be dead names on a piece of paper, and good luck trying to sue them because they're already express legal, right? You know, so it's just that simple, people. You're dealing with the dead. Where do you see anybody signing for this on the government side? You don't. And then they rock up to court, and well, of course, the judge is the administrator. Admine is trader. He's a trader, obviously, and he deals in trade. And so, of course, the judge deals in legal identities because you've agreed to give him to be the subject of a piece of paper and allow him to administrate in his legal profession. And then people are rocking up going, well, they've applied and agreed to be this person who's subject to a piece of paper, and then they're going, oh, well, I'm not that person. And seriously, that's even in their world, that's fraud. Even in anybody's world, that's fraud. Please, people, you know, like if you're not a Canadian, then you have simply, or American or whatever you're not a 14th Amendment slave, and that's why it's called the Bill of Rights. They reserve the right to bill you, BLU, and you don't want to deal with this, people. And same in Canada. I'm just not a Canadian, you know, and this is my birth soil, and it's God's soil. It's God's land. It's not man's land, and these people even acknowledge this. And even these people, some people say, wow, you know, you got all these certificates. Well, yeah, if I were ever rocked up to these people and said, is there anything in the universe that I cannot do? and I was not a Canadian, and they wrote me back and said, yes, that would be slavery, and they would be in violation of after Descendants AD in the year of our Lord, our Savior. And so they respect that. But unfortunately, people rock up and they become a birth certificate, and then they have to, it's a call to arms. That's why the cop will come up to the car and say, what's your last name? What's your surname? What he's saying is take the S out, and he's saying, are you our name? And if you're saying, yeah, I have a surname, that's why the cop's wearing guns. He's suspecting that if you have a surname, you might have guns too. You're using a coat of arms / warfare name, right? And that's why the hospital beds and stuff, you have the triage wards and that, and take the D out, and you got war. You had the D. D usually represents debt, debtor, and right there you can see where we're going with this. You got war and debt. What's the biggest occupation / business going right now? But anyhow, on a positive side, if you have ever applied for this, don't ever go to court stating that you're not this when you've applied and state that you're a liar and agreed to be a person who is the subject with you are a name, when clearly you shouldn't agree to be a name when you are the God-given flesh that God gave you, right? So that's where you draw up a death certificate and state that, listen, you proclaim that you are no longer this person who is the subject to a dead piece of paper, and that you will allow any judge to, whether it be remove your children away from you or anything, because everybody's subjects, and we've all established that they're chattel. Even in Roman law, civil law, service in Black's law states that to buy, sell, trade, and chattel and humans. Like, please, people, you have to really wake up here. So if you want to be this, well, you'll pay like a pagan, pay again, and there's no. It's a secular world, and there's no God whatsoever in this world. None whatsoever. There was a naked trust, and if you think the government of Canada gave you something, well, yes, they did. They were holding in trust in the year after our descendants, in the year of our Lord, our Savior, that they would do no harm to you as long as you didn't apply for the world of sin and apply and agree to be the subject of a birth certificate. They even stated that they were your assurance in Black's law, and that these were bonds, and that everything was already prepaid. So yes, things were prepaid for you, but then you rocked up and you said, no, I want to apply for this, and now you want it to become the assurance to their bond, which was already even starting to be legally framed in the whole 9 yards if you wanted to become a sinner to participate. So you can see where I'm going with this, people. It's just that simple. So I hope this helps everybody, even like authority figures and everybody else. I just want to get everybody on the same page as to what's going on, because I myself, I'm not a Canadian, which thus would make me a terrorist if I was doing something like that, but I'm not. I am a God-given creature that they respect in the year of our Lord, our Savior, and I'm just thankful for that, because otherwise, you start using surnames and start honoring people and giving them titles, you better start praying that your Creator takes you away. You'd be better that way. Anyhow, so I'm going to leave it at this. Much love, respect out to all, and please, people, if you've applied to become this person who is the subject of the birth certificate, to get a divorce from the government, you were married to them by applying, divorce them by stating that this is a death certificate, and send them a certified copy of it, and keep all your originals and get them authenticated like I did. And I even proclaimed that I am that I am, and I who shall legally not be named. And it even stated in Cruden versus Neal that, listen, the government deals with fictions and can only deal within as so much. And that's it, that's all. So they can have no tangible with the real live parody, which is me, when they're just dead on a piece of paper. God's laws never required paper, and you never had to cut down trees for God's laws, because God's laws are divine. That's just the way it is, right? But these people, they'll trade your soul if you agree to apply and become a birth certificate, right? And they call it soul trading on the stock exchange at your expense. Expense was a British currency, to be frank, and franc was a French currency too by the bourgeoisie, BRGO. So I could go on for months and days with this, people, but I'm going to leave it at that. That's all I can say. I really hope this helps. Much love, respect out to all. Always cheers by the judges, doctors, lawyers, cats, moms, dads, the birds, the bees, everybody. Peace. Cheers, guys. Bye. Okay, people, so we're going to start. Hi, guys. The name is Mark, and we're going to do another video, and I'm going to give you guys even more further clarification to what's going on. And if you do not energize this stuff by rocking up and applying for a birth certificate and stating that you are this person who is subject to the birth certificate. So if you don't do any of that whatsoever, you guys are off the hook, and it goes like this. It starts off, your parents went to the hospital. Now, they had a baby there, which was a miracle in the whole 9 yards. But because the parents are using the hospital, imagine if something went wrong. Like, say, for example, I don't know, there was a miscarriage, something happened. You decided you were going to sue the hospital and the government of Canada and all that stuff. Well, the government of Canada had to protect themselves, and that's why when you go to the hospital, you have to register that there was a birth and that you had a baby there. You're confirming what's going on so they can avoid all legal and lawful whatever in case something goes wrong. I mean, you are using their services, so therefore you have to be responsible for yourself. I mean, why would they take all responsibility? Something goes wrong and then you sue them all, and so you can see where we're going with this. This is an act and a fact of protection for these guys. So now you see where we're going with this. So now when your parents go up to the hospital, one of these gets drawn up, and I'm just going to start speeding through this a little faster, and everything gets certified by the Deputy Registrar General, Judith M. Hartman. Now this is for Ontario people. So anyhow, what happens is your parents, unbeknownst to them, had 7 years to come along and claim that this last name, this surname, we'll go through this, I'm not sure, it'll say Simser somewhere on this, and there it is, and it'll say Simser, and effectively that is a surname, and if you take the S out, it says you are name. This is the name. So what happens is your parents aren't aware that if they don't claim that last name, that the government's going to claim it for them, and they're going to claim this, being that this surname, this last name, became their child. And how do we know this? It says, this is the Citizenship Act, C-29. It says, deserted child, 4.1, for the purposes of paragraph 3.1a, every person who, before apparently attaining the age of 7 years, was found as a deserted child in Canada shall be deemed to have been born in Canada unless the contrary is proved within 7 years from the date the person was found. So they're claiming that this is basically an artificial person, right? Because they're using the last name, the surname, you are name. You are not a name, you are in the flesh, okay? So right now, nothing is going on with you guys whatsoever because there's not an ounce. You did not sign this whatsoever. You were a baby and you didn't know nothing. So this is just stuff going on to protect the hospital in case there was anything that went wrong with your mom giving birth at the hospital or something as a means to protect themselves. And so obviously things are registered, and that's a registry. And it says here every person. So for the purposes of paragraph, right, this has all been graphed, 3.1a, it says every person. So we've established that this person went up for adoption, yada, yada, yada. Anybody had 7 years to come along, and if nobody claimed that deserted child wound up becoming a Canadian, and the birth certificate was drawn up for it. Now, this is whether you apply for this birth certificate or not, okay? So as long as you haven't received anything in the mail for birth certificates and stuff, you are not a Canadian. This is all their stuff because nowhere does your signatures appear on this. Same with on the birth certificate, and we're going to pretend that this is a birth certificate. Okay, because I don't have this stuff, and it says birth certificate anyhow. So, now what's going on is we've established that they were making a claim out here, and what we're going to do is we're going to come and we're going to take a look at person here in Black's Law, and, okay, so yeah, we're going to come into person. And we're just going to scroll down, so you guys just be patient with me. I just want to show you guys everything that's going on, because there's too much nonsense going on out there from people who are listening to people who have never proved shit. They all run around and they talk stuff, and they're going, well, I'm the living man, and I'm not that corporation. And the judge is looking at you like you're an idiot, because he knows you're a living man, and he knows that whether or not you're a corporation, or if you have a corporation, or both. So the whole thing is, it starts off with C-29, and they go right on into, if this person isn't claimed within 7 years, that they will claim this person, and that will thus make you a Canadian citizen. And we'll determine how that makes you a Canadian citizen, okay? So I'm just going to find this. We'll get back on track, and let's see. There we go. It says person. It says, hope you guys can see this, a man considered according to the rank he holds in society, with all the rights to which the place he holds entitles him, and the duty which it imposes. So they're imposing, I'm imposing a duty on this, and that's what a person is. Then it goes on to say, a human being considered, conside read, as capable of having rights. They don't have rights, but capable of having rights, different story, and of being charged with duties. Well, what do the cops do when they come up and charge you? Well, they're charging you, and that's it. So now, and you have a duty to, to which the place he holds entitles him, and the duties which it imposes. So you have a duty to perform this, and everything's done on performs with the government. Nothing was done on forms with God.
Oh, yeah.
So now that we've established what a person is, then it goes on to say artificial persons, such as are created and devised by law, B-U-Y, whoever buys the laws and makes the laws, for the purposes of society and government, called corporations or bodies politic. So there you go, people. And then it says natural persons, such as are formed by nature, as distinguished from artificial persons or corporations. Then they go on to say private person, an individual, and divide you all, who is not the incumbent of an office. So you're still, anyhow, I'm not going to confuse that. So now that we've established what a person is, a man considered according to the rank he holds in society, with all the rights to which the place he holds entitles him, and the duties which it imposes. So that's simple pimple. Now we're going to come up to everything the government does. I've ran through this before, but they get it certificated. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to come into certificate, and we're going to zoom down. Now we're going to go like this, because we established that everything the government does is in certificates, and we're going to go like that. It says, a written assurance or official representation on this form through prior videos. We've went through all this. We've established that's what's going on. That some act has or has not been done. There's been an act that your parents gave this up for adoption, this surname, UR name, which you are not, but it's UR name is a piece of paper, which is the person here, okay, at the moment. So effectively, you've never signed this, they have. So there has been some acts done, and there has not been some acts done. Or some other event occurred. Yes, there was a bouncing baby boy, or some legal formality in form, indeed, all eye tie has been complied with, because your parents used their services, and of course they had to register you in case something happened, so that the hospital would not become liable for you having a miscarriage. Maybe you had bad health, and it was all your fault and your responsibility. So you can see where we're going with this. Been complied with, particularly such written assurance made or issuing is suing from some court, and designed as a notice of things done therein, or as a warrant, a rant for war, or authority to some other court, judge, or officer. So even this part here, they're saying is suing, issuing from some court. They have sued this, and 7 years later, we've established they're going to make a claim on this, and that's why it starts off with all these numbers in red. They're making a claim on that, and it's all been certificated. We've seen that time and time again, people. So now here's the thing, okay? We're going to come into, I guess we'll go like this. So what happens is, we're not going to come into that. what happens is this, people, okay? This is all from Black's Law, so never mind what I have to say about things. This is what these people have to say about things. And we're going to come to registration. Obviously, simple keywords, not people, but events, the event that there was a baby and all that stuff, and that there's a claim being made on this, okay, has all been registered, and it's up for salvation. And it says, see probate judge under judge. So automatically, if you're into probate and you like to get baited like a fish on a hook, you are under a judge. So it says, under judge, register, maritime law. Mar usually means water, right? Or Mars in marred by a bear, destroyed. So the maritime, water, time on the water, law, or they're destroying your time law, the list or record of ships subject to a particular country's maritime regulations.